Very good evening to you. It's 7 p.m. and you have tuned to the Football Pitch live on YouTube. Just as we come on air there, one of our crew drops off, but he's just coming back in. So you are tuned, as I say, live to the Football Pitch here on YouTube. Tonight we are back talking Scottish football, and we'll have another look at the title run-in in the SPL. Is that the Hearts bubble deflating? Have Celtic got the momentum, or can Rangers sustain their form since Danny Röhl took over? We'll talk Dunfermline's giant cup-killing run and ask if they can beat Derby rivals Falkirk to reach the final. And we can't let the shocking week for the English clubs in Europe, or at least the Champions League, pass us by. And we're also asking, is football really a business? And in the wake of the Scotland squad being issued, we will be taking a look at that as well. If we have time, we might even scratch a look at the BBC programme Ultras, but obviously we've got a packed show tonight. So go ahead, don't forget, subscribe, like this episode, tell your pals. It does help us out, and we're trying to get to 100 subscribers before the season's end. Joined as always by Dennis Newell, and we have regular guest, Hearts fan Graham Duffy, and Dunfermline supporter Craig Brown. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we? A long introduction tonight, but we've got a lot to get through.
Good evening, everybody.
And we're also, there you go. And we are also joined by, there we go, Scott Hartley, whose comment on X this week prompted our look at the football finances. But the place to start tonight, good evening to you, Scott. Thanks for joining us. But the place to start tonight is most definitely the SPL. Hearts, unfortunately, losing at the weekend, or depending, obviously, who you support, but Hearts losing at the weekend. Celtic rampant, Rangers pushing towards getting a bit of form under Danny Röhl. So, as I say, we do have a football title race hot. I'm going to put my teeth back in. We've got our... Guys, on you go. I can't think what I'm going to say. Good evening to you both. There we are again. There's the fixtures. That's what I was trying to get. I was trying to look for them. So there's the fixtures remaining before the split. So Celtic have got Dundee United, Dundee, St Mirren. Rangers have got Aberdeen, Dundee United and Falkirk. And Hearts, Graham, your very own Hearts. You've got Dundee tomorrow, Livingston and Motherwell. Probably the harder running of the three sides, Graham.
It is, but I think the fact two of them are at home is helpful because our home record.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and the Graham's are up to it as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think
in the system tonight.
Yeah, I think that Celtic have probably, in my eyes, got the easier run. Now, you might say, well, Dundee's quite stuffy, so is Dundee United. St Mirren, I don't think will be even a test the way they're going now. Rangers, Aberdeen, I think that's a toughie for them. Dundee United could well be that, because the bottom line is they've got to keep getting results, and Falkirk could be a no-brainer, and it's away on the artificial surface. Then you look at Hearts. Dundee's still tough because they've managed to keep their manager, which we all thought well in advance of Christmas that he wasn't going to last that long. Yeah, he's done a great job. Livingston, no, I don't think that'll be an issue, although it's away, artificial surface for anybody. And obviously the last game there, as you say, before the split, is a home game against Motherwell. And that, to me, could actually be a title decider. I don't think Rangers will manage to get 9 points out of the 3 games. And Celtic could scrape by as well, just getting the 9, but only just. And then it's really down to Hearts. Can they get the 9 points out of the 3 matches? And I go back to just discussing what we had the last time Graham was on, and that was how crucial it is to get the injured players back. Now, there's talk about a couple of them coming back. How soon, when Graham comes back online, we'll just see what the state of play is with injured players.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. It's far from done, but there is big pressure on Hearts, probably more so than they were maybe expected with the run that they were having. But as I repeat, they were having injuries and I think it's dipped their quality. It definitely has. You might disagree, Graham, but I'm looking at Hearts every week now, and I'm going, no, you're missing the key players. And I know it's only Shankland in your eyes and Devlin, but the bottom line is, to me, they're a miss. And you really need to get them back. And the question I was asking when you were offline there, Graham, when are they going to get back?
They are back now. That's a joy of going live. I was about to talk, my son phoned me, so that's when my line went off.
Right, okay.
But they are back. They're back in training. They're back in training this week, so they should be fit for tomorrow. Where they both start, if they're both fit, I'm chucking them straight back in because there's no doubt they are massive players. Yeah. I think, to be fair, since they have been out, we have done okay. We have still picked up results, but they are huge. Like, Lawrence Shankland's been one of our best players this season, as is Cammy Devlin. I think Devlin's form this season has probably been as good as I've seen him for a long time. So having them both back will be huge for this running. I think those last 3 games before the split, the crucial thing is 2 are at home. And our home record's good. We're unbeaten at home this season, so that's a good thing. But that game last week was frustrating. I didn't think we played well at all. Again, I've been listening to a lot of pundits this week saying that's probably it now. Pressure's getting to Hearts. I don't think it is. We've been top for 6 months. We've handled the pressure quite well. I just think last week, too many players chose last week to have really poor games. Like, Harry Milne's been outstanding, but he was really poor. And a lot of players that were not at that level last week. I'm expecting a bounce back tomorrow. Now, the last time we played Dundee at Tynecastle, we beat them 4-0. They are a better side now, but they've only won 2 away games all season. So I'm expecting us to bounce back. And with the fact that both Shankland and Devlin are both back, that can only be a huge boost for us and Derek McKinnon.
Yeah. Craig, as Graham says, he's expecting a bounce-back game tomorrow. And the one thing with Hearts is when they have had a disappointing result, they have bounced back the week after. You know, I think obviously most of the defeats that they have had, they've had a win the following week. And that's the thing. They haven't really had a bad spell as such. You know, yeah, every club loses games. We expect that. But Hearts haven't really had a down spell as such in terms, obviously lost 2 or 3 games on the bounce, or, you know, they've always bounced back, Craig.
They have, yeah. And I mean, Graham just said it, but they've been top of the league for 6 months. They were chasing slightly, but they've been the leader of the pack, and they've always just had that. And it's why I think they will be champions, because they just have that knack, even when things haven't gone well, to sort of grab. I'm thinking the Kilmarnock game and 1 or 2 others, just grab that last minute goal, you know, where they saw them over the line, whether it be an equaliser or whether it's been the winner. They have dropped some points recently, you know, obviously January kind of mainly, and then obviously now. But I still think they've got enough room, you know, to go. It's a title race. It's great to see before my phone dropped out, but it's great to see. And there's going to be some more points dropped by all 3 teams between now and the end of the season. I don't see any of them going on an unbeaten run. So Hearts had their week last week, and I'm quite comfortable and quite confident that they'll get 3 points again tomorrow.
Yeah, you would expect that tomorrow, Graham. Certainly, again, as you say, Dundee, they've been one of the surprise sides this season. I think early season, we all tipped them to really struggle. We tipped them to be the favourites for relegation. But even last week, they showed they can be stuffy, they can be resilient. You know, they're 2-0 down with a minute and a half to go and get a 2-each draw, you know, against Dundee United. They are definitely much more resilient than what anybody thought. But Tynecastle's a different kettle of fish for what that was last week, you know, and you would fully expect Hearts to bounce back, as we say, you know, from last week's disappointing defeat to Kilmarnock.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to Dundee. I think Pressley's done a good job, because I generally thought he'd be the first manager sacked, so fair play to him.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But it's about what Hearts do. We have to come out and really be on the front foot tomorrow. Something that's been very noticeable the last few weeks, and most of the season actually, and I've said this on my own TikTok page, I think Hearts start games far too slow. It takes us a while getting at a game. That we can't afford to do tomorrow. We've not actually scored an early goal at Tynecastle this season. I'd like to see us really start on the front foot, really get after Dundee, get an early goal and settle the crowd. You know, if we get an early goal, then we could go on and win the game comfortably. But it's how we start the game. We have to start on the front foot. And as has been mentioned, anytime we've lost this season, which hasn't been much, we've then bounced back the following game. I'm expecting the same thing tomorrow. And the fact, like I said, that you've got Shankland and Devlin back in there, that will just boost the squad. when the squad sees those two back, that can only be a massive, massive thing for us. And I think the crowd's got a big part to play tomorrow as well. There's no point in getting frustrated if things are not going well. They have to back the team right for the start and get us over the line. Because if we can win tomorrow, we'll go into the international break still top with Livingston away the next game, which is a live televised game. We've still got a big chance here to create history. 1959-60 was the last time Hearts won the league. And this is the best chance we may have to do it for a while. But I've said this as well, the fact that I think people need to remember where we were to where we are now. We were bottom of the league last season, fighting relegation. I would rather have the pressure of a title race than be in a relegation battle. This has been a fantastic season, no matter what happens. But I think Craig's right. There's a lot of twists and turns still to come. After the split, it's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
They play each other. They'll have to play Falkirk. They'll have to play Hibs. We will as well. But I just kind of think, for me, the biggest thing for me is I genuinely believe that we have, for me, the best strike partnership in the league in Shankland and Braga. I don't think Rangers have got that because I don't really rate Chermiti and Nadiri, and Celtic don't have a clinical striker. So I think having that Shankland Braga partnership back is massive for me.
Can I just butt in there, Graham, and say I totally agree with the strike partnership, but I also think you've got the two best centre-half partnerships as well out of the three.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do, and I know we'll come to it later, but I just find that absolutely baffling that Craig Alexson on that Scotland squad. And I've said, I did a whole video on my old TikTok page about that, and I was raging that he's not in it.
Yeah, I mean, that as you say, we'll come on to that later on. How much do you think, Dennis, is key to how the fixtures work after the split in terms of who gets the home ties and things like that? How much is that going to be key to the title running?
Yeah, well, you normally find these ties favour the Old Firm. There's no question of doubt about it, because the teams that are below that, normally they're first and second, and you get four teams that are scrounging about trying to get points and stay up there, because it is a bit difficult for the four remaining teams because of the financial restraints they would have against the big two. I'm not a fan of the split, because we know this year is maybe an exception, but you can actually have somebody in seventh spot finishing the league with more points than somebody that finishes in even fourth or third. So I don't like it at all. I think it's stacked up again to favour the Old Firm. It's like a safety net they've got, and that's where I think Hearts really need to start picking up a bit more form and being clinical where they were at the start of the season. I didn't feel there was anybody could have beaten them. Now, it may be the timing is right to get the two people I mentioned earlier back fit and on the park, and that could be what turns them back into the team they were, that were feared. I don't think that fear factor is the same with every team that's playing them now, because they have just dipped slightly, but they have managed to keep getting points on the board, and it doesn't matter how well you play. You keep putting points on the board. The Old Firm have been absolute dire with their performances and have been scraping over the line for the last season. And Hearts really just need to maybe get the two players back and just see what kind of lift that gives them. And tomorrow is a perfect example of seeing just how much they've been missed, the two guys. So the split for me, I don't like. And Hearts have really got to start tomorrow. We've been saying this all along. They've got to maintain the level they've been at. But, still be at the top with the injuries they've picked up, I think is exceptional. I think they've done really well. And it would be a shame now to get the players back that I felt has been missing to not go in and win this. And as Craig, we're all agreeing in the fact we don't think Celtic and Rangers will go through the rest of the season without dropping points. There's no question of doubt about that, I think, because they're not a finished article by any manner of means.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, Graham. People are writing you off, but you're still in that box seat. You're still 2 points ahead at the top of the table, So, I mean, to me, you guys keep winning, keep picking up the points.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to be, for my mind, the favourites to go in and lift the title anyway, But I'll ask you the same question about the split. After that split, how key is it that you probably get 3 home games and 2 away games rather than the opposite way about?
Yeah, I think it's huge because, as I said, the home record is really good. We're unbeaten at home, so I think it could be massive. Again, another thing that I'm going to sound really paranoid here, But another thing I think is massive as well is in terms of this title race. My concern is, I think I said this last time as well, my concern is that the officials are going to have a big part in this. And that's what I don't want. I do not want to lose out on a league title because of a refereeing decision or a VAR decision. That worries me more than anything. If Hearts slip away based on bad form, fine, that can happen. But if it comes down to a refereeing decision, I will be absolutely raging. So I think that's a big thing as well. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the split either. I've never been a fan of it. I just think it looks ridiculous when you've got the team in 7th. I've got more points than the team in 6th, and it just makes us look tin pot. But I've said numerous times, I want the league extended. That'll never happen now. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the split. But I think having a one more game at home could be really crucial for us.
Yeah.
I'm going to be controversial here, but I actually am in favour of the split. I like it. Yeah, I agree that league reconstruction for me is long overdue. We do need a bigger, all leagues, but I actually like the drama that the split, when it's a season like this, I like the drama that the split throws up, and I think
I'll stop you there. If Dunfermline go up, you need to be here next year when you're sitting in 7th spot.
Yeah, but at least if you're sitting in 7th spot, if
you're
chasing that. You're still chasing it. Yeah, okay. When the split happens, maybe you're out in a bit, but by and large, I do see what you're talking about. But by and large, I like it.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
to my mind, all you're facing the split is games against Rangers and Celtic again, you know. But I mean, that to my mind is the only reason for wanting to finish 6th rather than 7th. You know, financially, it doesn't make that much of a difference. You know, in terms of prize money or whatever else, it is only the fact that you're looking for games against clubs who are either going to bring what's up my teeth tonight? Bring a larger, you know, or indeed, as I say, another game at Ibrox or Parkhead, you know, and that to my mind's the only thing you could say. Well, I want to finish in the top 6 rather than 7th. You know, I don't see. You know, other than you're going to get games against Livingston, against Dundee, rather than Hibs, Hearts, Rangers, Celtic. You know, that's it.
Look at it just now, where it's stacked. Dundee United, Dundee, Aberdeen, St Mirren, Kilmarnock and Livingston. Now, if you're not made that cut, how attractive are the games remaining? You really want to go and see a relegation battle on a Saturday? No for me. So you look at the ties that are going to present themselves. Dundee and Dundee United, okay, it's a derby, but there's nothing to play for. You look at Aberdeen.
They're finishing 5th and 6th either, Dennis.
No, I know that, but the games are with better teams, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
the top 6 is what the quality, if you want to call it, throughout the season has managed to achieve. But it's a second prize when really it should be for the full season that you're playing, not decided by a split because somebody up in their ivory tower has decided, we just want the top 6. What about the rest of these clubs? You've still got, I still think that the 6 I mentioned there at the bottom should still have an opportunity in the run into the end of the league to be playing the top teams.
Yeah.
For me, the season I feel it's the bottom, just forget it. You know, I just feel that there's no involvement for them. They've gone, they've been cast aside. And that's my feeling with that cut on it.
Particularly again this season when you're looking at Livingston are probably gone. You know, you're doing is three or 4 of these bottom sides, you know, St Mirren, Kilmarnock, are looking to try and avoid 11th spot, you know, so as they don't get the relegation playoff. You know,
but
and
that's what
you're playing for, you know.
But the point I'm making in that, Tammy, is that if you're Kilmarnock or Livingston supporter, wouldn't it be nice if you finish off not so much in a high, but at least having one of the top 3 teams, if you want to call it, that are attractive this year, or should be, is Celtic, Rangers and Hearts. You surely should be able to play them maybe in the last game of the season or the second last. It's just dead for me.
Nobody's disputing that at all. And I think, well, other than Craig, but I mean, until such times as we have league expansion, that's not happening. We're always going to have this bloody split, you know. But it is unfortunate, you know. But again, bringing it back to the top of the table, you know, we've got drama at the top. You know, normally we're looking at drama at the foot of the table. This season we've got that drama at the top. We've got a 3-horse race for the title. No, let's be honest, and we can all turn around and say, well, it's because Celtic are garbage or Rangers didn't really start playing until 10 games into, or didn't start picking up results, until 10 games into the season, you know, under Danny Rowe. But at the end of the day, top of the table on merit. You know, you can only beat what's ahead of you or what's out there, you know. And to my mind, Hearts are top of the table on merit, fully deserve to be sat there with 8 games to go, you know. And if they're sat there still top, come that damn split, they still go into that last 5 games as favourite for the title, you know, because they picked up results against Falkirk, Rangers, Celtic, Motherwell, you know, and Hibernian this season, you know. And you've got to say that Hearts, if they sit top, are still favourites, you know. And I think neutrals want them to win.
How do you feel in? Sorry, Craig, on you go.
No, but also as well, I feel that the stories of Motherwell and Falkirk within that as well are also, you know, more drama.
Yeah. Do you find though, Cammy, that Motherwell's out the race now because you sort of had dismissed them and said it's a 3-horse race when Motherwell's still got it? You think so? With that one game at the weekend?
I think Motherwell...
The last 2 games, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think Motherwell will still have a say, obviously, because at the end of the day, the top 3 have still got to play them. You know, so I think Motherwell will definitely still have a say. But to my mind, they are out of the title race for definite, you know, and it is now a 3-horse race. It is Rangers, Celtic, as we see, league leaders Hearts, you know. So,
but you can't say that the Old Firm, and even Hearts in that point, there's a 10-point drift between Motherwell and Hearts. It's I know it's almost impossible, but it's still possible. It's a 3-game swing plus 1 point or a draw. Now, when they've got to play each other as many games, I think that the next game, if Motherwell don't get a convincing win, then I would turn around and say, yeah, you're definitely out of it. But this moment in time, if they can beat Hibs tomorrow, then I honestly believe that maybe they're back into it again. Hibs are definitely out of it, but I don't know. I just wouldn't write them off. I would still think that there's a potential second place there for them. It's a slim chance, but it's still a chance.
I wouldn't be surprised if they split. I'll start again. I wouldn't be surprised if they split the Old Firm. I would be surprised if they went on and won the league.
Oh no, winning the league, I don't think that's going to happen. I still think Hearts are favourites, but I think there's potential there for maybe second spot.
Yeah, Motherwell are 4th. I don't think they're getting.
I think we could agree with that. Yeah,
you know, I think there's too much there now. They've lost too much ground with these 2 bad results.
Yeah,
defeat against Dundee was critical. Yes. So, and again, we would have expected them fully to win on the form they were in. You know, so Motherwell are gone. They will have a say, obviously. You know, and I can still see them taking points off the 3 sides above them. You know, but I don't think they're going to do enough to even split the Old Firm or to get into 3rd. You know, whoever's going to be, you know, I just don't see it.
They've also got hard ties as well. I mean, if you look at it, just even into the start of April, by the 11th of April, they'll have played Hearts, they'll have played Falkirk, and that's a massive 6 points, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, and then you've got Hibs coming up. So I don't know. I don't fancy them, but at the same time, I wouldn't fully write them off.
No, I think the fact that, Graham, you've got Motherwell, as you say, at Tynecastle, you know, I think that's key. You know, the fact that the game's not at Fir Park, you've got them at Tynecastle. To me, I think that really does rule Motherwell out, and it is now, to me, Graham, a 3-horse race. Do you think?
Yeah, I think so, especially the last 2 results, losing to Dundee, losing to Celtic last week. And the thing is, it was self-inflicted. They were just making mistakes. But that's the way people want to play. They want to try and play attractive passing football, which is fine, but you're going to get caught out, and that's what happened. But the last time they came to Tynecastle, it finished 3-3, that 3-3 draw. And they play some of the best football I've seen outside of the Old Firm for a long, long time. But they were never going to sustain that. They were always going to struggle at some point. It looks like it's now. But I do still think, and I said it weeks ago, they'll have a say in this. They will have a big say. They'll play Hearts again at Fir Park. They'll have to play Celtic and Rangers. So it's not going to be easy. You know, if Motherwell split the Old Firm, that would be fantastic for them, given it's their first season under the new manager. But I do think the titles, they're way out of that now. I think the last two results have proved that, I think.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But anyway, getting away from league business now and looking at the cup, you know, Craig, your own Dunfermline Athletic, what a season they've had this year in the cup. Okay, the league business, not quite, you know, you're chasing a playoff spot. But when you look at what you've done in the cup, even though that graphic's not quite representative and not 100% accurate, but hey, we'll take it where it is. You beat Queen of the South, obviously, in round 3. Massive result that Dennis and I predicted on this show. You beat Hibs, a late winner. Then you went on to beat Kelty Hearts. Massive result against Aberdeen, 3-0. The game that obviously saw the managerial change up at Pittodrie to set up the Derby semi-final, you know, the Fife Central Derby between yourselves and Falkirk, and a push to get to that final against either Celtic or St Mirren. Would you have swapped the cup run for winning the league?
Oh, I probably would, yeah. I probably would. The first time I was on the show, I spoke about how I felt this season for us was going to be a bit of a builder. I thought it was going to start slow, but by the end of it, I had full confidence that we would probably finished comfortably in the playoff spot, but without actually doing a title push. However, never, ever, ever in amongst all that did you think we were going to get to a semi-final, having put out, you know, an Aberdeen and Hibs en route. So yeah, you know, everybody always wants that Scottish Cup run, you know, certainly from clubs out with the Old Firm. So to be taking my 15-year-old son to Hampden to go and watch his team, obviously in the semi-final, for it to be one of the few times I've seen Dunfermline play at Hampden in my life, and I'm now coming 46 this year. Yeah, I wouldn't give that up just for a title.
Yeah. Obviously, the semi-final, Falkirk and Dunfermline, it's the two sides that knocked out the Edinburgh sides this season. Obviously, Falkirk putting paid to you guys in round 3, and Dunfermline putting out Hibs in the 4th round. You know, but what might have been, you know, we could well be sitting here saying it's an Edinburgh derby in the semi-final, but obviously it's not going to be that. But again, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be looking for a cup run in terms of if you had to swap that for pushing towards the league title.
Nah, we've got bigger fish to fry. Nah, I would. I said that I would have liked a cup run. You know, that's the only disappointment of this season is the cup run. The League Cup and the Scottish Cup weren't good enough. But I mean, that Dunfermline Falkirk game, as soon as the draw was made, Celtic St Mirren, Dunfermline Falkirk, everyone's eyes went to that Dunfermline Falkirk game. That is going to be an absolute cracking game of football. I don't know how that's going to go. I think Dunfermline have been outstanding this season. The job that Neil Lennon has done has been incredible. I, like most folk, watched the Aberdeen game. I thought Dunfermline would win. They didn't just win, they blew them away. I mean, Dunfermline were absolutely incredible that night. That could have been 6 or 7 quite comfortably. Dunfermline were superb. The two laddies, Andy Todd and Matty Todd, they are fantastic. They won't be at Dunfermline long because I think they're just too good. Yep. I think the one thing I would say at Dunfermline, though, the one worry I would have, and it might not happen, the one worry I would have is that there's a lot of talk about Neil Lennon might be getting interviewed for the St Mirren job, and that's the only worry I would have because the job he's done to be in the top 4 in a playoff place, which I think they'll do really well in, and be in a semi-final. I think he's done a fantastic job, but there's just that one little bit of worry about what might happen if St Mirren do come calling.
I think one, you know, I've read the BBC rumours page and all these kind of things, and I don't think Lennon's going. Lennon's not leaving us to go to St Mirren. Now, don't get me wrong, if it had been Aberdeen that had come calling, you know, he may have had that little thing in his head. I will be stunned. He's if you watch his last interview with the club, so first and foremost, so it's actually a year this week since Neil Lennon came into Dunfermline. It was an abomination of a football club when he walked in on the pitch. Absolute abomination, where we were hurtling back to League One. He steadied the ship. He didn't really want to take the job in the first place. However, our new owner, convinced him to do it. Now, no doubt, there's a big wage packet thrown in there along the line, but I don't think he's a man. I don't think he's a man short of money. I don't think that's his main driving factor. I think his main driving factor that he's always spoke about is he could build a club up. He could build a club up from the ground and hopefully take us back into Europe is what he spoke about. Now, he said it wasn't going to happen quickly. It wasn't going to happen this season, or he wasn't planning on happening this season. It was all about incremental steps, which is what he's done. I don't see now with what you mentioned, Andy Todd, Matty Todd. They're only two youngsters that we have that are flying. Robbie Fraser's come in from Rangers. We've got Abdullah. We've got so many of them. I could rattle them all off. All young players. Take away Benedictus. Take away Charlie Gilmore. Take away Chris Kane. I think the average age of the squad's about 22. I don't see Neil Lennon being well backed, speaking constantly about how much he's enjoying the job. I don't see him taking a sidestep. Although different divisions were certainly stacked to the club to go to St Mirren, I don't think that's even realistic. I think it's probably come from just speculation.
The thing I'm trying to pick out the boy's name because I can't remember him. It's either Thomas or Maddie, one of the two of them. One of them is an absolute flying machine, and he tore Aberdeen apart going down that channel. What one is it?
So that's Thomas. Sadly, Ollie Thomas, he's on loan from Bristol City, but sadly, Race Rovers game on Saturday, he come off the pitch after 5 minutes, and that's his season over. So, if you talk about actual kind of worries, for me, we only have one fit striker who is injury prone, Chris Kane, because Ollie Thomas has now been sent back to Bristol City, whose season's over.
It's a pity, by the way. I'll tell you what, that boy's got a future in front of him. Absolutely stunning pace, and the commitment of him is incredible. And I thought, well, he's got a right future in it. I didn't know where he came from. I've only just had a quick look, and basically quality, real quality.
No.
And he could have been playing in the Premier League, no problem, at the Old Firm, without any question of doubt, or at Hearts. He would have got a place.
Do you know what, Dennis? He's that, I would say, modern, mobile target man. He's strong, he's physical, he was good in the air, he's holding up the play, he could run channels. He just had it all.
Yeah,
Craig, can I just ask a question, Craig? I've wanted to know this for a while now, and I've heard a few folk talking about. Where does that Dunfermline-Falkirk rivalry come from? Because I always thought it was Dunfermline-Wraith was the big rivalry, but there seems to be a major hatred between Dunfermline and Falkirk.
There's a million different stories. I think the truth is it's always just come from two clubs, same stature and size, who over the years have always been kind of fighting either for relegation from the Premier League First Divisions or promotions from Championships to League One recently. So I think it's just a rivalry that's just developed over years and years and years. So obviously the derby is Raith Rovers, but I think the real hatred is because of that, and I think that's where it stems from. And obviously there's a lot of nasty things have happened over the years with regards to well publicised issues.
A lot of it's poison, you get the sectarianism between Rangers and Celtic, you've obviously got the rivalry of Hearts and Hibs in the same city and whatever else, Dundee clubs separated by two doors, but it's the hatred and it is the poison, and the celebrating, what Falkirk fans in terms of celebrating the tragedies that have occurred to Dunfermline players, and obviously the Falkirk doing the same thing. I think that's where that rivalry is. It's just too vitriolic, and that to me is an issue. If it was kept in terms of everything else, if it was kept in terms of just obviously that kind of rivalry, great. But it is that poison and vitriol between both clubs that is very, very difficult to watch.
And it's my one worry for the semi is the trouble. I think it's Dunfermline Falkirk is always seen as a rivalry, which it is, but it's never really reported how use the word vitriol, but it's right. It's never really reported in the mainstream media about how bad it can be, and I just hope and I pray and I do whatever it is to do that by the time it comes to Hampden, we're talking about what happens on the pitch and not what surrounds it.
You know the tickets for that game? Do you know how many tickets your folk are Dunfermline are getting for that?
Yeah, so we've both been allocated an initial. It was announced this week, so we've both been allocated an initial 9,000 each, and then obviously more will be released. Now, for me, we'll get more than 9,000. Yeah, 9,000.
Where's the rest going to? It should be whatever you want. Split it down the middle, and what you just don't sell, the fat cats can have. What's wrong with them? Honestly, shocking. 9,000.
Hampden, what are we talking about? 50,000 roughly?
50,000.
Aye, give or take. So the clubs get 18,000 of that, so you get 34,000 tickets.
I suspect behind the goals will probably not be factored in there, and I think they'll probably open up those sections as it happens. That's what happened the last time. 2009 was it? But yeah, there'll be a lot of corps there, and comps and all sponsors, and there'll be a lot of that as well. Yeah. And amongst all that.
Pretty much what they're saying is it's not going to be a sellout, so that's why they're holding tickets back not necessarily for the, as you say, Dennis, for the fact and everything else.
I'm just looking at the Aberdeen game for a home game for yous, and you look at it. There was over 10,000 at the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Aberdeen bought.
And I think, I don't know what Aberdeen brought down. I think maybe 3,000 or something.
Yeah, about 3.5.
Yeah. So, to give you an extra 2,000 is quite scandalous when you know that everybody in the town will really want to go and watch the next match.
I think rival fans want to see that as well, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah. But
I know people.
Why do you not make the split a bit better?
Yeah.
At least 15 each. Then people are not scrambling around going, where do I get a ticket for this?
Yeah. I mean, I know obviously staying in the town, how many tickets Falkirk fans will take for that game.
Yeah.
I mean, it is easy, plus throw in obviously with the anti-hotels and all that kind of stuff, that'll swell the crowd by at least 7.
They'll get to Hampden and they're inflatable down the canal.
Aye, that's it exactly. Depending where they take them from, but that is by the by. Whatever it is, going to be a fantastic event. I might even actually go along to that one myself, and I might even pay for it. There you go. It's a cracking game.
I don't believe that.
Okay,
and you know what? It'll be 2 teams trying to play football as well.
Right.
Yeah. The only thing is, Graham, it's going to be played in grass. So neither of the clubs are used to be playing on that, so
I think it makes for better football. The day we start in the semi-finals on plastic surfaces is just a total turn-off. Yeah, no, I think the players will enjoy it more playing at Hampden. I really think that'll make for a better entertainment game that we would maybe have not seen in artificial. No, I think so. That'll be good.
Oh, you'll have VAR at the game, though, Craig. You'll not be used to that.
I know. I know. That's the one thing that stops me. Well, not stops me. You want to get up. Of course, you want to get up. But it's one thing that I'm dreading about when they return. It'll be, yeah.
You've got that. It's always a concern. Graham's touched on it earlier about the fact of VAR. And it is really quite disappointing that a tool there that we've got that should improve the game is a worry and a hindrance that you can have so much enjoyment out of a goal being scored and then 3 or 4 minutes later your legs are just chopped off. I think it's terrible because we have got officials who are not operating this properly. But I think that's for another night when Hearts get a bad one come shortly because it's on the cards, Graham. There's a step on one of these bad results will crucify you.
It's more a case of when rather than if, isn't it? Which is a sad thing.
But no, I think it is right. It's great that it's been played at Hampden Park, and they're not taking it somewhere like Easter Road or Tynecastle. In terms of where you're going to get a sellout. I think both clubs deserve for that game to be at Hampden, and I think that's fully right. One thing quickly before I look at European fixtures, I do a wee bit of work occasionally for Quality Radio. I'm actually at Starts Park tomorrow for the Wraith Rovers Airdrieonians game. but I was asked to cover the Challenge Cup final. I know this is a complete aside. I was asked to cover the Challenge Cup final for the station, and I'm going to be going along to Firhill to cover the final between Inverness Caledonian and Wraith Rovers.
Yep.
Why the fucking hell has that been held at Firhill?
I have absolutely no
It's
idea.
the first thing that
Absolutely no idea.
You've got Wraith Rovers and you've got Inverness. Why is that game not at Perth? You know,
Well, Perth, Dundee.
Can it be McDermott Park or Dens Park or whatever else? I'm just saying Perth, Craig, in terms of the fact it's a championship ground. You know, rather than it's a Premier League ground in either Dens Park or Tannadice. But why the hell are two clubs from the East having to travel to Firhill for that game? It just does not make any economic sense on Easter Sunday. Not just, you know, sort of.
But Cammy, it continues right through it. You could drive a bus through their incompetence. Tuesday, the 24th of March, Stranraer are playing Clyde. 7:45 kickoff. Seriously?
I know.
Who in the SFA or Scottish leagues that are all joined together at the hip at some point or place make these decisions? And what you're saying is absolutely shocking. But so is that for a Tuesday night. Stranraer playing Clyde.
Particularly about a couple of weeks ago, you're going against Stranraer as well. You know, just these games that need to be made up during the week. You know, if we have an abandonment or whatever else, can we no start looking at doing something about a weekend fixture? You know, when we've got gaps in the.
Well, could do it whenever these friendlies are on for a start off.
It's, you know, absolute madness. But anyway, that
and at the same time, clubs are obviously, you know, every penny's a prisoner when it comes to the clubs. So.
Yeah, a lot of these clubs don't have a pot to, you know what, in, you know, but that's by the by. Anyway, taking it from the ridiculous to the sublime, you know, when we look at what we had in Europe this week, English clubs in Europe, that's a reasonably accurate graphic this week. You know, Liverpool, your own Liverpool, Graham, going through 4-1 eventually on aggregate. Obviously losing the first leg 1-0 over in Turkey, but very, very convincing home victory at Anfield 4-0. Arsenal, an absolute storming goal from Eze, seeing off Leverkusen 2-0 at the Emirates and getting a fantastic 3-1 victory against there. But the top for me of the Champions League was the elimination, and not just the elimination, but how they were knocked out. Man City going down an absolute doing to Real Madrid. Newcastle, the less said about their 7-2 defeat to Barcelona, the better. Same token, Spurs put up a bit of a fight, you know, got a 3-2 victory at the Tottenham Stadium, but that wasn't enough after their humiliation last week in Madrid. And the big one, Chelsea, they didn't even show up, you know, and losing 8-2 on aggregate. You know, yes, the English clubs in the minor competitions all went through, but for England to lose 4 of its 6 representatives in the manner that they did, it's not the best league in the world, is it, Graham?
Well, the so-called best league in the world. I mean, I actually don't mind watching the Premiership. Obviously, Liverpool are vested interest for me. I thought we were our best performance of the season on Wednesday. Yep. We've been all season, I do not know, but it was much better. But I felt a bit sorry for Newcastle because I thought first half they were excellent, but then they got taken apart. Man City had a uphill battle against Madrid, being 3-0 down for that first leg. But I generally cannot believe that Liam Rossini has got a job like Chelsea. That guy could not look more out of his depth if he tried. And then you've got 3 minutes to go. You are 8-2 down. He's bringing a sub on, and he's writing instructions in a little book. What are you writing in there? You're getting pumped. What are you writing? He is incredibly out of his depth, and I think Chelsea owners have got a real question to ask about why they appointed this guy, because he is not a manager at all. He's hopeless, and it looks to me like those Chelsea players don't understand what he's doing. Even his interviews, his interviews
are priceless.
The whole thing about the referee when Paul Tierney was in the middle of that huddle, and he's saying my players were were respecting the ball. What the fuck are you talking about? Seriously, who employed this guy? It is mental. But honestly, it's just Chelsea were embarrassing, absolute embarrassment. Fair play to Tottenham; they did show a little bit of fighting heart. Man City, as I said, went out, but I mean, generally, that Chelsea one just baffles me how that boy's got that job, because he is useless.
Yeah, I look at the results, and I actually think, and I question the sanity of football. Barcelona, 7 goals against Newcastle, 7 goals. The other ones, when we look at it with aggregates, is Germany, but we'll just keep it to the British teams. And you look at that, 8-2 against Chelsea, and the point Graham's making there. Some of these players are on over £100,000 a week, and they're losing to teams by 8 goals over 2 matches and 7 goals. That's the equivalent of me being at East Stirling and getting a doing off Gretna. It really is. But for £100,000 a week, you've really got to stand back and go, hey, wait a minute, what's going wrong here? These clubs really need to check and rein in the amount of money they're giving guys that are no willing to bust a gut, because that's, to me, what it's all about. The commitment and the effort is no there. They look nice and shiny when you bring them out the pack on, he's a great player. Then when the chips are down, 7 goals can get in before they've even blinked. Right, but they're still picking up their £100,000 a week. Now, the other side of the coin of that is, if these chairmen and board of directors and all these people in their ivory towers had to dig that money out their back pocket and pay the players that have just been beaten 7-2, do you think they would do it? Never in a million years. Never in a million years would they dig into their back pocket and spend that money. No money they've earned, let's put it that way. Real money that they've earned, no chance. Because I certainly wouldn't do it. 100 grand a week, I'll tell you what, they'd be at the sand dunes and I'd be birching them the following week, because I tell you what, they're getting away with murder. And I'm highlighting the high scoring, because that's not acceptable at that level of football when they're getting paid so much money. Really shocking. The standard's terrible.
I don't know if any of you saw the Newcastle game, but certainly, as you say, Graham, 2 each at half time. And Newcastle actually did turn up and looked as though they were playing well, but they were cut apart, at the start of that second half. And some of the defending for at least 3 of the Barcelona goals was nothing short of criminal. It really, really was. Players out of position, massively out of position, caught ball watching, no idea what they were doing. And whether it's the players you need to question, or whether Eddie Howe completely caught tactics up second half or not, I don't know. But for me, Chelsea were an embarrassment, but Newcastle as well, to put in such a strong first half performance and such a strong performance even in the first leg at St James's Park, was brilliant. But they pissed it all away in that second half. And the first 10 minutes of that second half, they'd lost the Tiger.
Yeah, I mean, the defender was amateur, but I mean, I think it was Wednesday night when those games are on. I think it was 21 goals conceded, I think, by Chelsea, Newcastle, and Man City over the 2 legs. It's just embarrassing, for the supposed best league in the world. You shouldn't be conceding that many goals over 2 legs. To lose 8 goals to PSG. Yes, PSG are a good side, don't get me wrong, but to lose 8 goals, I mean, you didn't give yourself a chance in that second leg. You go into that 5-2 down. You don't need to chase the game. You've got 3 goals to pull back. It was going to be difficult anyway. And then you lose a goal inside 5 minutes and the game's done. And they just had no idea what to do. But, I mean, I think, 7 English teams went into the Champions League, and only 2 are actually going into the next round, which is just, it's embarrassing. And
I think it's 36 goals the English teams lost over the 2 ties.
Yeah.
And I think you have 6 teams.
Which is really, really poor, And I mean, you consider Arsenal and Liverpool only lost 2 between them over ties, which is shocking. And Craig, it really was an embarrassment, I think, for any English football fan. The one thing is, there's very few English players at the back in any of these sides, but they were poor. Manchester City defending was poor. Newcastle defending, as Graham says, amateurish, and that's really giving it a bit of credit, you know. And Rosenior's just out of his depth.
Yeah, you've got to ask. It probably takes us on to the next topic, really, but you've got to ask where a lot of that money goes, because I mean they're spending big money, but they're not getting quality. They're really not, and that's not just your top, 7 clubs in England. It's throughout. I know it's international football, but I remember when I lived in England, and at some point during that process, I remember they turned over the Germans and the Euros of the World Cup, and Emil Heskey and Michael Owen and these guys all ran riot. And the German FA sat there and they said this will never happen again. And they restructured and they looked at their youth investment policy and they did everything. And obviously Germany came back as a nation, club football, international football a lot stronger. That never seems to happen in England. It just seems to be even more, throwing money at the problem. And to be honest, you just said it there, Cammy, about there's not an English player there. Most of it does go into foreign markets. In fact, not most of it, 90% of it goes. So the money is actually lost in the game as well. So they're not getting quality and they're not regenerating the money. So I don't know where they go from here. Probably just go and get another Pep Guardiola type in and give them hundreds and hundreds of millions to try and sort it.
I stand corrected. It was 30 goals, no 36.
36, aye. Come on, give him a wee bit of credit. Let's be fair, it wasn't half as bad as what you thought it was. But no, Craig, you were right, touching on obviously the finances in English football. This is a question that was brought to us, as I say, during the week by Scott Hartley. Scott, obviously a friend of the show, a good friend of mine. I spent actually last weekend with Scott. But Wycombe Wanderers, a side who got promoted from League One to the Championship last season through the playoffs. That's a brief rundown of their finances. So they finished 5th in League One last season. As I say, came up through the playoffs. The club's lost almost 10 million, which has gone up from a loss of nearly 4 the season before. They've invested, it says, an infrastructure spend of just short of 10, 2.2 million on player purchases. But when you look at that borrowings, they borrowed on over £20 million last season. Now, a club coming up for League One into the Championship, and it does beg the question, number one, how sustainable is this to be able to continue? Because unless Wycombe got up to the Premier League, and certainly they don't look like doing that just now, they ain't going to be getting the assets or the money to clear these borrowings. You wouldn't have thought, certainly sitting in the bottom lower reaches of the Championship. So how sustainable is it? And also, why is football, which likes to portray itself now as a business, not treating itself as a business when we talk about the money that some of these big clubs are throwing at transfers and whatever else? Chelsea look as though they're going to get some kind of embargo for certain breaches of financial fair play, it would seem. But as I say, it was this Wycombe's finances that prompted Scott's question. How sustainable is this, guys, over a period of time?
See, if you look at that, that's mismanagement of a club, and they deserve everything they get. Because if you look at it, they would know the long-term loans and what the interest rate would be, the commercial loans, etc., and the short-term debt. All that should be hauled back, right back to finishing 5th, that you don't get to that 4th column along there. Wage bills, investment, and other expenses. Well, I'm sorry, but you don't spend 9.8 million, or they've got a loss of that, when you look at only having spent 2.2 million in players. Infrastructure, if that's to improve the stadium, I don't honestly know. I'm making an assumption it could be. Well, that's okay. You've £10 million there that needs to be built into it. That's nothing to do with their ambitions, in my head, on the playing side when they've only spent 2.2 million. So in reality, it's 10 million for building. If they built that to a stand, which is acceptable in my head, and just over 2 million, it's the loss of the other 8 million that concerns me, that they've allowed that to happen. I would say 2.2 million is not a bad shout for player purchases. Have they lost the plot with wage bills? That would be my concern, that it's lost 10, 12, 13 million, say
Yeah.
13, £7 million to that total of 20 million that we're assuming. So why has that happened? And that's where I would look at it in a bit more depth and say, let's cover that column there, investment and assets, right? Somebody's lost the plot there with the remainder of that money to be at 20 million. And if that's the case, then I've no sympathy for them, because the guys that are probably in that board will be successful businessmen themselves, and they've allowed that to happen as if somebody's going to come in with a magic wand and just clear that debt. £8 million is a massive amount out with what your real spend should be. Really massive amount.
Craig, you followed a side who almost went out of business a number of years ago. They're now obviously a successful Premier League club, you know, and a sustained Premier League club in the shape of Bournemouth. I mean, they almost did go out of business, I think, on the last day, and only a few seasons ago, you know. But they weren't talking these kind of sums of money, you know. It was obviously when football was a business, you know, and we talk about what we do in Scottish clubs here, you know, in terms of obviously they're self-sustainable and self-financing. But if you're borrowing £20 million to basically cover a 9.8 million loss and obviously 10 million of whatever that infrastructure is, and I know it's showing a stand, but we don't
training. I know that. Yeah.
That's just a graphic. It just things were troublesome at Dean Court, as I say, when you were following Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Now they have reached the promised land and they are sustainable almost, you know, and they're looking to build stands and whatever else. But if you're losing that kind of money as a League One club in a push to get towards the Championship, and let's be honest, Wycombe Wanderers are not a big club. How can you justify that kind of thing? And I know Dennis is saying, they deserve everything they get. It's the fans again that you've got to feel sorry for.
Yeah, they're the ones that are going to end up out the buckets. But also as well is it just, I mean, that's one club. I'm pretty sure they're probably not even the worst, but it just reeks of keeping up with the Joneses with me. It's just, you know, other clubs are doing it, we'll do it, and it just seems to be a culture of overspend. But I've never run a business in my life, and I've never been involved in anything like that. But that can't be sustainable.
That's a self-destruct button, Craig.
Yeah.
If they're allowing themselves to be deluded that spending that kind of money will get them to the promised land, then they need to get a reality check, because that's not running a business, a viable business. And when you're looking at what they're doing, it's not about throwing money at players, going by what they've spent. It's the whole infrastructure of that club. And you can't, in my eyes, see where they are in the league. If they were a championship club and they're pushing for the Premiership, by all manner of means, go for that. But where they're placed with £20 million, you know, there's no a pipe along there that the money's actually going into the top to top that up for them.
Yeah. Well, when Bournemouth and Brighton did the same thing, you know, when they were in League One, there was a pretty similar to what Hearts have just done, really, you know, but they put in a 5 to 10 year plan of investment, of structures, of processes, you know, and they didn't budge from that. And that's how they did it. They didn't do it by, there obviously comes a certain point where rather than signing players at 200,000, you're having to sign them for, you know, 25 million or whatever it might be. That has to come in the Premier League. But that's not where it started. And it didn't get started by putting club into debt and you know, basically insolvency, which is what that looks like to me.
Yeah, so that's what Graham's saying as well. That probably won't be the only club that's in that situation as well.
Well, as I say, since Scott sent me that post, and as I say, there's a guy called Kieran Maguire on X. Follow him because he does seem to put quite a bit about finances, and he's shared other clubs' accounts. But as I say, it was that one that led Scott to asking the question about how sustainable it was. And yeah, Wycombe aren't the only club within that situation, you know. And as I say, you look at what Chelsea have done. Chelsea have overspent massively, you know, and there's an argument there about Chelsea have breached financial fair play, but having a points penalty, whereas Everton did also breach and get the points penalty and whatever else, you know. So as I say, he's a good guy to follow. I know, obviously, Graham, yourself, you're on X. Craig, as I say, if you want to read some of his stuff, as I say, is a guy, Kieran Maguire. Very, very interesting there indeed. But Graham, I mean, obviously, before Wallace Mercer, Hearts were in a similar situation. You know, you guys looked as though you were up shit street as well, you know. And it's the fans who are the ones who end up suffering, you know. Yeah, clubs, local businesses and whatever else, you know. But ultimately, the fans, if the club does disappear, they're the ones who lose out on a Saturday afternoon, lose out on everything else. So these custodians of the club, they have to take better care of it, Graham.
Yeah, and I think as a football fan, I've seen this numerous times over the years that clubs don't really live within their means because owners think we're chasing our dream here. We need to try and bring in the best players, but then it's not sustainable. I've seen it numerous times that teams go under, teams go into administration. I mean, all you've got to do is look at Gretna. They came up through 3 leagues, through one person's dream, Brooks Milson, and then when he passed away, they were done. They had nothing else. They had nothing else sustainable. Mm-hmm. It is difficult because as football fans, we always want to see the best players and stuff. But you've got to spend means. It happened to Motherwell years and years ago as well. They were bringing in players they couldn't afford. It happened to Dundee when they were bringing in guys like Cledo Caniggia, Fabrizio Ravanelli. They couldn't afford these guys, but they chased a dream. It always happens. Liverpool spent £450 million in the summer to improve a squad that won the league last season, and they're sitting 5th. It doesn't always work.
I think that's where we're in Scotland. I think that's where we've kind of, you know, after the Ravanellis and the Caniggias and all these kind of guys came, I think we sort of did reset ourselves. And maybe it was Celtic that kind of brought it along to be fashionable. But we sort of kind of said, well, okay, our clubs are never going to be, you know, these big wealthy clubs, and our league's never going to be the best. So what we'll do is we'll look to produce players, develop them, and we'll sell them on for big fees. Because that never really seems, or that never seems to happen in England. They always just want that end product, and they're willing to pay, and get themselves into debt and all these things for that.
The only thing I would say about that is tell that to Dumbarton fans and Inverness Cali Thistle fans, who it's that dream, and you see what that's done to them. Dumbarton obviously struggling in League Two. Cali Thistle have just come out of it. If you listen to Duncan Ferguson's book or read Duncan Ferguson's book, if some of you guys are traditionalists, he details some of what was going on at Cali Thistle. And it's absolutely frightening what was happening up there in terms of the way they had to really start cutting the various budgets, wage budgets, tea budgets, transport budgets and everything else, because they just made such a shit show of everything up there, So ultimately it's the fan who ends up suffering, But no, as I say, it's just thanks very much, as I say, to Scott for the point. As I said, obviously Scott's a good pal, but as I say, it was him that had sent me the question just to indeed ask how sustainable that kind of stuff is, and I think we're all in agreement that it's definitely not sustainable beyond one season. If you don't get anything, then you're kind of snookered, But Dennis had just switched his camera off there, and I was just going to come to him and ask him about his rant about the Scotland squad. Do you want to do that on mic, Dennis, off camera, or are you going to leave that for next week?
No, I'm going to do it now.
Right, no bother.
I thought we were okay battery-wise. Sorry about that. I had to go and put the charger in. We obviously this week, start of the week, the Scottish squad was actually announced for the friendlies that we've got coming up. Japan, Cote d'Ivoire, and how do you pronounce this? Curacao or whatever they're called, which is in
Curacao.
Well, that's in May, right? Yeah. Well, firstly, why are we going down to Everton to play a game? 31st, we're going to Everton's ground as a nation to play in a friendly. That's the first question. Why? Surely when we have made the World Cup, the best we should be doing is throwing the doors open, right? And letting everybody in, every man and his dog in there. Instead of going down to Everton One of my colleagues at work asked me to go down there, and I said, "No, I'm not going down to. I'd love to go to the new Everton Stadium, which I will do at one point, but I'm not going down there to watch Grant Hanley playing. There's no way you couldn't pay me to watch Grant Hanley playing."
Hey, you wouldn't go to Easter Road to watch Grant Hanley playing. Come on.
No, you're right there. I'm leaving it at that, and just Biggie gets enough batter. I'm sure he's the nicest guy in the world, but we're talking not about personalities. We're talking about performances playing with the Scottish team, which is important to a nation, not just one or two people, right? If we look at this, and if you look at the Scotland squad, right, you then look and say to yourself, hey, what's going on here? The opportunity to play on these friendlies, two guys that have done exceptionally well for Scotland this year in this form of Hearts. Mm-hmm. Why are they not in the squad? And at Shankland, if he's back, he could have held the squad back and left a place for him to build up his fitness, because we need him in the Scottish team. So there was potentially 3 Hearts players that he swept them under the carpet, and we will never see what they can do for us. I think it's terrible, absolutely terrible. When you actually see the squad, we went to Europe, and it was an embarrassment. And you would have thought between then and now he would have improved that squad quite dramatically, or at least taking a few risks with the likes of Halkett and people like that. Why not?
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
That's Alexa saying that she can't even help me. So what chances, Steve? So what chance have I got? That's her talking about the actual Scotland team. I can't help you with that. So the thing is, there's an element where you say to yourself, how are we going to improve, right? If that is what he's bringing to the party. Nothing. And then he's on rattling his gums about the fact that I've not been offered a new contract or whatever else. And I'm thinking, do you deserve it? Because I'll tell you what, it was only 2 games in real terms away from getting the sack if he hadn't qualified. I think he should have been quite quiet about this, gone and seen how good he is in the World Cup, and let the SFA come to him with a begging bowl to stay. And I'd be delighted if he can get us through this. But see the squad he's got, sorry, nothing fresh in it. He's got the young lad that's farmed out for Rangers at Curtis.
Finlay Curtis.
Finlay Kelly. No, sorry. No, nothing fresh. He's still got Hanley in there. He's still got McKenna. He's still got Ralston in there. And I say to myself, you're not making any attempt to actually make this squad better. If you think that is a finished article that you've got with that squad, you're deluded. And I don't want a Scottish manager that's deluded. I want somebody that's willing to take a wee chance here and there. There's three internationals coming up that are friendlies against no major opposition. If we don't win them, it doesn't matter. But imagine he finds out that Halkett is 10 times better with 1 leg than Hanley is with 2. And Hanley's been out injured as well. It's no matter even giving him too much stick. He's not kicked a ball in ages. And
Nope. He's gone.
These people that actually are not fit for purpose of what we need going to the World Cup.
No.
I could rattle on all night, but that's my half rant. Graham, I know you were opinionated about it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just think Craig Halkett has been outstanding for Hearts this season. The one thing about Halkett was always his injury problems, but he's over them now. He's been phenomenal. One of our best players this season. Grant Hanley's not played in 6 weeks. Craig Halkett's playing every week and being consistent, and he's not in that Scotland squad. You've then got Harry Milne, who's been outstanding for Hearts again, not in the Scotland squad. You've got Hearts players and Motherwell players that should be in that squad, and you are still picking guys like Grant Hanley and Anthony Ralston. You look at the goalkeepers as well. There's only 1 goalkeeper actually playing consistently for his team, and that's Scott Bain. I get the fact that he wants to be loyal to certain players, but surely in friendly games it's a time to experiment and try something different. But it's the same squad you're looking at thinking, and I'm not Scott McTominay and John McGinn don't need to be there. We know what they can do. They're going to the World Cup. We know what they can do. They don't need to be. Why not freshen it up and give other guys a chance to show what they can do? And the fact this sounds like I'm ranting here, but the fact is, you've got a team that is top of the table with, for me, one of the best Scottish centre halves, and he's not in that Scotland squad. And again, I look at John Souttar. He's not had a great season. Why is he still in there and Craig Halkett's not? I just think it's crazy.
Well, you could say the same with McKenna. I mean, for me, McKenna's never turned up for Scotland. And you look at again, we go back to the Hearts thing. Why has he not chosen these people? Even to just give them the opportunity and know that he wants to keep the other ones in reserve. He's got that much faith in McKenna, Hanley, Souttar, then go with it. But if he doesn't try other people, how are we going to improve as a nation? Because we are not the finished article. And the games we have got in the 3 matches against Haiti, Morocco and Brazil, we'll not win any of them with that squad, with the defence that he's got.
And the thing is, as well, is that I go to all the home games, as you know.
Is the signal gone, Cammy?
And people are paying, people are paying good money.
What
Now,
have you got up there now? Yeah,
I was expecting to go along to Hander on Saturday and maybe see a Halkett, a Walsh, a Barney Stewart, a Milne, something like that. That's you expect to see a little bit of freshness, a little bit of, we're just looking at other ideas. And once again, fans are going to turn up, paid good money to go and watch it. For what? To see what we already know.
I also found it very ironic that Harvey Barnes turned his back on Scotland to play for England, and he's not been selected in their 35-man squad for the friendly games. But
show me. Let's look at how much encouragement did we give him? How much of a selling tool was our nation and going to that guy and saying, we're out with a begging bowl? And to be honest, I would be out with a begging bowl, because what we've got up front is powder puff. It really is. And I would be delighted to get the boy Barnes there if it was going to make us enjoy these matches that we've got coming up. You've got to have the selling ability that you make players think this is the right choice for you, son. You're not going to get into that squad. Don't feel it the wrong way, but how would you like to play in the World Cup? Because it's your one and only chance. Come and play with Scotland. And then you look at Shea Adams and Lyndon Dykes. The boy Conway's not getting a chance. Hurst touch yet. Finlay Curtis. They're not going to win any games for us.
I also don't want to be horrible here, but why is Andy Irvine in that Scotland squad?
Yeah.
It's a mystery to me. Mystery.
Strange.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Henry, obviously he's not playing his trade at any level at all, but I think he still maybe merits an inclusion. Hanley's beyond me. Souttar, we know what he can do. McKenna, you won. You're definitely right. Dominic Hyam, Rex are decent this season, and the times I've seen McCrory, I don't mind them.
Hyam being there, because again, we're having a look. It's not to say he's going to make the World Cup, but we're having a look, so I don't mind that. Yeah,
but I mean, listen, Graham, I know obviously there's folk going to say, a wee bit of self-interest with Hearts and things like that, but I cannot see why the likes of Halkett isn't there, I get, obviously Shankland's out injured, I get that. But to me, would you rather have Curtis or Shankland in that squad? Would you rather have Lyndon Dykes or Shankland in that squad? Would you rather have Shea Adams or Dennis Newell in that squad? It's one of these things. I mean, it really is.
I might throw my hat in the ring if Hanley's still playing.
You wouldn't be playing against him, but Dennis.
I mean,
it's a difficult bit.
If you're Haiti or Brazil or Morocco and you're looking at, I know that's what most of it will be the Scotland squad, but if you're looking at that Scotland squad and seeing Shea Adams, Lyndon Dykes, Tommy Conway, George Hurst, you ain't worried about that, because they're not going to score you goals. They just don't score goals. Lawrence Shankland is Scotland. Lawrence Shankland's Scotland's best striker. There's no doubt about that, and he can't get in that squad. I know he's been injured, but he's back now. If you're not, this is what I don't get. Yeah. If you're not going to pick Lawrence Shankland because he's injured, fine. But why are you then picking Grant Hanley, who's been out for 6 weeks?
Spot on. That's exactly it, Graham. And that's the whole crux of the matter here. We need a forward that desperately up front, right? And if he's fit to play this weekend, that extra game, maybe going on for an hour and one of the internationals coming up, will be worth its weight in gold for us to see if he's worthwhile going to the World Cup. Not being there is a waste of time. And then the reverse, as you've just said, Hanley, what's he doing taking him even along? He'll not be anywhere near fit for these games because he's been Lord looking. So the bottom line is, I really can't get my head around that. And I'm really quite annoyed that he sat in the fence. We know desperately picking Hearts players, but no going further afield to look at what he can bring in and freshen that squad up. And to me, it looks like a man that's not capable of doing this job. I'll say it right now, because it's a World Cup and we can't have the same performances as he gave us in Europe in the last competition.
Yeah, 100%, and that's definitely it, But listen, guys, we've gone for well over an hour tonight. That's an hour and 15 minutes. Craig, apologies, we're not going to get time to chuck in the bit about Ultras tonight, but gives us a chance to get it discussed.
Why not? Why not? Are we in a rush?
None of us have watched it, for starters.
They'd be better for another night.
Craig, obviously, give it a quick mention. Not so much a quick plug, obviously, because I wouldn't plug anything on the BBC. But I did unplug the BBC, that's for sure. But first of all, is there any truth in it with the fact that it is on the BBC? But what is it? Obviously, a programme about certainly some of these Ultras at clubs.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, and to be honest, I thought it was quite a, dare I say it, Cammy, you'll not like it. I thought it was quite a well-balanced documentary. It told you the good of all the things that they did.
Yeah.
The second episode told you the not so good, and the third one spoke about the future of them and what clubs were doing and various kind of things that certainly the Motherwell Ultras were getting involved in off the park and food banks and all these kind of various things. And I found it quite interesting. Obviously, having a 15-year-old son who's attracted to all these kind of things, and obviously seeing them from the top of the SPL at Hearts all the way down to kind of, dare I say, non-leagues of Scotland now. I just think it's just a good sort of talking point, or as are these youth groups, because that's what they are they good for their game, or are they not so good for the game? And I thought as a documentary, I thought it painted it well, and I thought from it they had a lot of good talking points and discussion points. You might like them, you might loathe them, but I felt in the 3 episodes it's well worth a watch, because there's plenty of talking points about them, and probably about males in society and young youth culture. So well worth a watch.
Yeah,
that's what
I'll have a look at that. Yeah, I'll have a look into that, because we all have our perceived ideas of what the Ultras are, and 90% of the time you don't think it's a good fit for football. So we're looking into it, and what you've said, Craig, yep, I definitely have a go at it without making my mind up. I'm not 100% sure even yet at this moment in time what purpose they serve, but maybe it'll enlighten me a little bit and take away my ignorance of what the Ultras are about.
Yeah. Graham, obviously you're in a similar boat to Craig. I know you've got a kind of a son just on the kind of verge of his teenage years and things like that, and Craig saying obviously his son's at that age where he's almost getting kind of interested in some of these youth groups. Is that something you would want your son to shy away from, or do you feel maybe getting involved in something like that could be a positive for him?
It would depend on the folk he was with, because I think in every Ultras group you're going to get idiots that just want to cause trouble, so I wouldn't want him involved in that. But my nephew is the same age as Craig's son, and he's in the Gorgie Ultras, and I do think they have a place. I do think they make a lot of noise. They do drum up the atmosphere. At times they're the only folk that do sing. But like I said, I think in every Ultras group you're going to get the odd one or two that are just there to cause trouble, and that's something I don't like. There was a thing, I think it was last year, A View for the Terrace, that's actually quite good on BBC. They did a segment on their programme about the Dumbarton Ultras, and it was young laddies that went along to the game with drums and stuff and tried to drum up a lot of support. They had a bit of negative reactions from some Dumbarton fans that were quite older, but a lot of other fans actually quite liked it because it got them involved. It got them a bit more interested in Dumbarton, just having these young fans there. So I think it does serve a purpose, but it has to be done right. It has to be for the right thing. You have to go there, back your team and support your team. Anything else, it's a waste of time.
Yeah. As someone we're talking about as ultras as support rather than casuals is there to cause hassle and grief, I suppose. You know, obviously,
Yeah.
a lot of clubs have got their own, dare we say, casuals. You know, I don't know if that's still a thing for the late 90s, early 2000s, you know, but obviously that's just hooligan groups, a lot of them kind of things, you know, and I think ultras seem to be something a bit different, almost a kind of community within a club. You know, that to me is fine, you know, but when you're talking about, like, I've seen on social media a lot of Rangers fans, and whether it's coming back to the game against Celtic and the trouble there, are against, like, the Union Bears, you know, and I don't know if they'd be considered ultras or casuals or just troublemakers or whatever else, you know, and I think we're in danger maybe of getting supporters groups within clubs fractured, you know, if you're talking about you're going to have all these groups within clubs, and that to me would be something I would be very wary of, you know, as to whether that could be deemed negative or positive in terms of, well, I belong to the ultras, but I'm not with the casuals, or I'm with this group, or I'm with that, you know. And we look at a lot of these clubs, you're saying it with the Dumbarton ones, Graham, you know, how many fans go along to Dumbarton? You know, maybe 300, 400 fans. If that's getting fractured into various different supporters groups, you know, and these factions then end up pulling against each other, could that start having negative impacts on the supporters and the clubs?
Yeah. I think though, well, I think looking at the pitch invasion, if we call it that, at the Old Firm match, what worries me is when we start to give air room to the clowns that come on the park with the masks on, right?
Yeah,
they're faceless people. They're the ones that are a real issue in the world. They're a nightmare. If you've not got the stomach to go on the pitch with your face showing, then don't go on it, right? But to pull your hoods on, and they've all went out and bought these things and everything else. They're a scourge in the game. There is no question of doubt about it. That nine, I don't know how many ended up getting lifted, but every one of them with that on should have been all hauled into the jail. So that is your problem. And are they ultras? Are they ultra bears? Whatever you call them. The bottom line is they're our main problem in our games. You might find the ultras all stand in the corner and don't create a problem. I'm okay with that. But these guys, as an example, coming on with the masks, have already worked out what they're going to do. They're bad for the game. They're making the club look terrible, and they're not there to watch football, and they probably know nothing about it. Right? So we need to get rid of these people, and it's no one or two. There's hundreds of them, and they need to be staying at the game.
That's my worry about ultras, you know. But when you have these,
I'm not saying they are ultras. I'm just saying
no. But if you have these clowns and halfwits who then try to engage or jump into ultras, you know, or into supporters groups or whatever else, you know. I mean, I know obviously as a Clyde supporter, we've got two factions, you know. We've got the Glasgow branch, who tends to be the more youthful, noisier section of the support, you know, and you've obviously got the older supporters who not so much don't interchange or don't interact, but obviously they maybe don't hold, you know, they maybe frown almost upon the younger fans, you know, the noisier fans, the ones there who are there to drum up the atmosphere and a bit of noise, you know. And if you've got fans who try to interact or try to get involved in the wrong side, that's the only thing, as I say, for me, you know, as if you end up with different factions and you get battling within, metaphorically, battling within other clubs, you know. Does that fracture a support? You know, but no, it's definitely something I'll sit and watch, even if it is a BBC programme. I'm sure I'll nip down to somebody's house and catch that. Who obviously pays their licence, you know. I'll get in and watch that one day and somebody there, you know, but never mind. Anyway, on that note, guys, we have almost gone for 90 minutes, an hour and 24. It's the longest episode we've done for quite a while. We did say at the start of the episode that we're very, very busy. If you've enjoyed tonight, go ahead, like, subscribe, tell your pals, tell the budgie, tell the granny, you know what I mean? Tell your ultra mates to go ahead, like the podcast, get involved. Next week, we go from the east of Scotland and stay in the east. We've got Colin Nelson from Cowdenbeath. Colin's the Director of Football Operations at Cowdenbeath. He was on earlier in the season. So he's joining us again next Friday night. So it'll be good fun to see, good to catch up with Colin. I think Cowdenbeath's form's dropped off a cliff a wee bit, but it'll be good to catch up with Colin again next week. So all that remains, as I say, like, subscribe, because after all, everything is happening on the pitch. Good night.
Good night.